disappointed, for Mark Twain had some curious notions about writing an autobiography, notions which kept changing over the years except in one respect. They became ever more curious. He began with composing sections by hand and ended with a series of autobiographical dictations. As early as the 70s, he was writing fragments. Around 1873, he wrote a brief autobiographical sketch for his friend Charles Dudley Warner. In 1877, he recalled the early days in Florida, Missouri. In 1885, on the death of General Grant, he dictated a series of recollections of his meetings with the general. In 1890, he set down the Page typesetting machine episode, that fiasco of his middle years and his memories of his mother. In 1897 to 1898, while in Vienna, he wrote the brilliant chapters on the early days spent on his uncle's farm. In 1899, he composed an autobiographical sketch for the use of his nephew, Samuel Moffett, on the basis of which Moffett wrote a biographical essay for the uniform edition of Mark Twain's works issued in the same year. In 1904, he wrote the notes on the Villa Quarto and the memory of John Hay while living on the outskirts of Florence, and in 1906, he undertook the sustained series of dictations which added so greatly to the autobiography's bulk. The task alternately irked and pleased him. In 1877, at the age of 42, he had resolved to begin his autobiography at once, in a formal way. "I did begin it," he wrote in 1904, "but the resolve melted away and disappeared in a week, and I threw my beginning away. Since then, about every 3 or 4 years, I have made other beginnings and throw them away. Once I tried the experiment of a diary, intending to inflate that into an autobiography when its accumulation should furnish enough material. But that experiment lasted only a week. It took me half of every night to set down the history of the day, and at the week's end, I did not like the result. Within the last 8 or 10 years, I have made several attempts to do the autobiography in one way or another with a pen, but the result was not satisfactory. It was too literary. With a pen in the hand, the narrative stream is a canal. It moves slowly, smoothly, decorously, sleepily. It has no blemish except that it is all blemish. It is too literary, too prim, too nice. The gait and style and movement are not suited to narrative. That canal stream is always reflecting. It is its nature. It can't help it. Its slick, shiny surface is interested in everything it passes along the banks. Cows, foliage, flowers, everything. And so it wastes a lot of time in reflections. Later, he experimented with newspaper clippings. I shall scatter through this autobiography newspaper clippings without end. When I do not copy them into the text, it means that I do not make them a part of the autobiography, at least not of the earlier editions. I put them in on the theory that if they are not interesting in the earlier editions, a time will come when it may be well enough to insert them for the reason that age is quite likely to make them interesting, although in their youth they may lack that quality. He was not afraid to wander. In this autobiography, it is my purpose to wander whenever I please and come back when I get ready. Once he thought he had found the right way. Finally, in Florence in 1904, I hit upon the right way to do an autobiography. Start it at no particular time of your life. Wander at your free will all over your life. Talk only about the thing which interests you for the moment. Drop it the moment its interest threatens to pale, and turn your talk upon the new and more interesting thing that has intruded itself into your mind meantime. And so I have found the right plan. It makes my labor amusement. Mere amusement, play, pastime, and wholly effortless. But early in 1906 he was having difficulties. The difficulties of it grow upon me all the time. For instance, the idea of blocking out a consecutive series of events which have happened